In this video, we're going to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to do is rank my favorite IELTS tasks from cool bananas, which means I love them, right down to F, which means I really, really dislike them. What we're also going to do is I'm going to show you the different tasks, give you an overview. I'll talk to you about some tips and some hints. I'll also share some experiences that I've had having taken this exam 5 times. What I want you to do in the comments below is tell me which is your favorite IELTS task and which is your least favorite IELTS task. Let's get going. Okay, let's start with the reading section, and we'll start with a question called True, False, Not Given. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the True, False, Not Given question looks like. What you have here is a statement. The statement says something like, the Otway claw belonged to a dinosaur which used to hunt in southern Australia. You have to decide if that statement says the same thing as the text, whether it contradicts the text, or whether there's just not enough information for you to decide whether it's true, false, or not given. That is the nature of this question, okay? Okay, so where am I going to put this in terms of my favorite to least favorite IELTS reading task? Okay, so personally, I kind of like this question. Once you work out how to do it, and once you work out the difference between false and not given, which is the most complex bit, it actually becomes kind of fun. I'm going to put it here in A. Not quite cool bananas, but it's still pretty fun. Okay, so the next one we're looking at is very similar to true, false, not given. It's called yes, no, not given. The difference is that true, false, not given looks at facts, whereas yes, no, not given looks at opinions. Take a look at this one here. So in question 1 there, it says the maps are impressive to look at. And you can see here that that is asking you about an opinion from the text. Is it yes, no, or not given? In other words, does it say the same thing? Is it contradictory, or is there not enough information there? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's very similar to the first one we looked at, so let's also pop it in category A. Okay, so the next one is called match headings, and for some reason this freaks people out, but it shouldn't, because if you know the method, that is, if you know that you read the paragraph first and then go to the list of headings, I think it's a pretty good one. Let's take a look at it. So this is what it looks like, and as I said, you want to start with the paragraph first. You want to read the paragraph, get an overall idea of the paragraph, and then hopefully one of those headings will be the best match for it. And you simply drag it across and put it into the little gap here. Now, we're looking at the computer delivered exam format. If you're taking the paper-based format, it's pretty similar. You'll just write a letter into the answer sheet there. Okay, in terms of ranking match headings, I like it. I'm going to put it also in category A. The next one is called diagram label completion, and as you can imagine, you're going to see a diagram on the page, some sort of image or visual. Take a look at this one. Okay, and what you need to do is you need to label the parts of the diagram, and the way that you do that is you need to understand the text. One thing you want to keep in mind with this diagram label completion is that it is not in order. That is, the answer to number 1 is not necessarily located at the start of the paragraph. The answer to number 1 might be at the bottom or in the middle of the paragraph, so keep that in mind. Okay, so how am I going to rank this one? This one I find a little bit boring. It's not too bad. I might pop it in C. The next one is called summary, note, or flowchart completion. So you're going to see a summary, a note, or a flowchart. Actually, let me just show you. It looks like this. So here we're looking at a summary. Now on the left-hand side, we've got a paragraph or paragraphs possibly about the history of chocolate or some other topic. The summary is basically a paraphrase of that text there. Okay, so it's written in other words. What you have to do is take a word or a couple of words and fill those gaps so the summary says the exact same thing as the text. With this one, you need to be careful to read the instructions very carefully. For this one, for example, it says no more than 2 words. So you can put 1 word or you can put 2 words, but you cannot put 3 words. And you cannot put a number either because it doesn't say you could do that. All right, so for this one here, it's a little bit boring. It's not the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. Let's put it in D. All right, next question. This one's called short answer. So you're going to see a short question. You just have to find a word or a couple of words from the text to answer that question. It looks like this. So you can see there, number 1, what was the ship carrying when it sank? You need to find a word or a couple of words, or in fact, look at the instructions there. No more than 3 words and or a number. So you can have 1 word, 2 words, 3 words. You can have 1 word and a number, 2 words and a number, or 3 words and a number. One thing you want to keep in mind with this one is that if you have a noun like the word chest, for example, you may also need to put the adjective in there as well, like treasure chest. So just be careful with that. Of course, chest would be wrong because it's not specific enough, whereas treasure chest, if that's the answer, would be correct. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, this one, let's take a look where I'm going to put it. All right, I'm going to pop this one in C because, to be honest, it's not confusing. It's very straightforward, and that's always a good thing. If you're finding all of these different IELTS question types a little bit confusing, you are not alone. It can be confusing. If you need help, you can download the free IELTS Ultimate Guide from the description below, and that's where we outline all the different tasks for you and give you lots of tips, etc. Let's now take a look at another one called sentence completion. Looks like this. Okay, so with this one, you have to find a word or a couple of words from the text to fill the gap. It's very straightforward. In fact, it's very similar to short answer, except with this one, you're just completing the sentence. So just like short answer, with sentence completion, you want to make sure that you capture enough of the words for specificity. That is, you're getting the right answer. So again, like chest versus treasure chest. But also keep in mind the instructions because maybe it says just write 1 word max, okay? Keep that in mind. Okay, so let's rank reading sentence completion. I think it's pretty similar to short answer. I'm going to pop it next to it in C. Right, we're now up to one which I do not like. So let's take a look at this one. It's reading match information. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you will see paragraphs of text. These paragraphs are labeled A, B, C, and D. On the right-hand side, you'll see a little table, or at least this is what it looks like for the computer-delivered exam. Then you'll see a statement. For example, the origins of the legend of Arthur. You need to decide in which paragraph that statement is located or that meaning is located. So for example, it might be located in paragraph A or paragraph B. Now, the kicker with this one is if you look at number 2, a new investigation into the history of the site, that may also be located in paragraph B. It doesn't necessarily come from a different paragraph. So, with this sort of question, you definitely need to practice before test day, not just for the reading itself, but to actually understand how that table works and what the relationship is between the statements and the paragraphs and the instructions. It's pretty complicated. One of the good things is on e2language.com, we have these methods lessons where me or Alex will take you through this in detail and explain it to you. So on test day, you're going to know exactly what to do. Okay, let's rank this one. I'm going to put it right at the bottom. All right, this one sucks. I'm going to put it in F. The next one is not much better. It's a little less confusing, but it's still really weird. I just don't like the question itself. Let's take a look at match sentence endings. All right, so on the left, you see a text, and on the right-hand side, you see half sentences. What you need to do is choose the correct ending for each sentence. So for example, let's look at this one. The first Buena Vista Social Club was a what? Well-known place for musicians to gather and play music may be correct because the sentence makes sense, but now this sentence needs to make sense or be contained within the paragraph somewhere. So it needs to have the same meaning. The tricky thing about this is you might find a sentence that makes sense like we just did, except it's just not located in the paragraphs at all. It's a distractor, so you need to be aware of that. Let's rank this one. This one is not much better than match information. I'm not a fan. I'm going to put it in E. You'll be happy to know that the next one is very straightforward. It's called multiple choice, and you've probably seen it 1,000 times. Anyway, I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. And as you can imagine, you have to select one of the answer options. Sometimes you have to select 2 answer options as well. Despite the format of this one being pretty simple and you've seen it 1,000 times, it's not my favorite because multiple choice questions can be pretty perplexing, pretty tricky. The reason is they're going to put distractors in there. That is, let's say there's 4 answer options. One's going to be correct. 3 will be very tempting. They're going to use words or phrases from the text, so it sort of looks like it might be the answer, but it just won't be the answer. Either will be contradictory or not quite right or not even mentioned at all. So this one, let's see where I put it. Yeah, I'm going to put it in D. It's not too bad, but it's not particularly fun. Lucky last is reading match features. And as far as I'm concerned, this is just as confusing as the match information one we saw before. Let me show you what it looks like. All right, so how this question typically works is there will be a list of people or plants or something like that, right? You can see down there in the little box, Jill Coleman, Teresa Wilson, Peggy Lamone, and Tim Melton. What you then need to do is read this statement and decide which of the people actually wrote about it or talked about it. So for example, it might be Teresa Wilson mentioned something about this. Therefore, I'll put B for Teresa Wilson. So this question, like the match information one we did before, is really quite confusing in terms of its layout, right? You need to know what to do long before test day. What we've been doing is actually looking at practice questions on e2language.com. So that's a good thing. You definitely need to understand how to do them. In addition, we have these things called methods lessons. These are video lessons where we take you through the individual questions step by step and show you how to find the right answer. Let's rank match features. I'm going to pop it right at the bottom, right next to match information. They are my 2 least favorite reading tasks. All right, so we finished the reading section. Let's take a look at how I rank them all. So I've put the true, false, and the yes, no's at the top with match headings. In the C category, I've got diagram label completion, short answer, and sentence completion. They're pretty straightforward. I kind of like them. A little bit below that, we've got the note, table, flowchart completion, and the multiple choice questions, which can get pretty complex and tricky. Match sentence endings is a bit weird. And then you've got match information and match features, which, as far as I'm concerned, are pretty peculiar questions. Let's now turn our attention to the speaking section. All right, so the speaking section in IELTS has 3 parts. In part 1, I like to think of it as like small talk. Basically, you're having a conversation with the examiner about quite mundane topics. Like they'll ask you questions like, where do you live? Do you work or do you study? Do you like the rain? Which is also a very strange question. This, I think, is pretty straightforward. You just answer in like a few sentences. Don't make your answers too short. Try and show off your vocabulary and your grammar a little bit. This one, I like it. I'm going to put speaking part 1 here in B. So in speaking part 2, after you've done the small talk, you'll then be given a task card that looks like this. The task card will be on a specific topic. It might be something like talk about a gift that you received recently, or bicycles, or holidays, or music, something pretty straightforward. It's also going to have 3 dot points, which you can use to guide you in this speaking task. You're going to have 1 minute to prepare, and then you have to speak on that topic for up to 2 minutes. So I've done this exam 5 times. So I've actually done the IELTS speaking test 5 times. And with this particular task, I find it pretty challenging. The challenge is that you need to speak for 2 minutes, ideally, without going round and round in circles, okay? So you do need some sort of method or structure to help you, and you do need to practice this one before test day. Even if you're a native English speaker, you might get into the exam if you haven't prepared and just speak for like 20 seconds and then think, oh my God, that's not enough, and start going around and around in circles. So with this particular task, I'm going to rank it as E. I find this task just unnatural. It's very strange in life that we'll speak for 2 minutes on a topic without breaking or without asking somebody a question. So in speaking part 3, it's an extension of the topic in speaking part 2. So let's say, for example, you talked about art. In speaking part 3, you'll then be asked by the examiner more complex, sort of more philosophical questions about art. Do you purchase art? What do you think about the nature of this? Blah, 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 blah. In this section, you really have to extend your vocabulary and your grammar and your answers. And of course, be very conscious of the way you're speaking and speak very clearly. Personally, I like this one because I have the vocabulary and grammar to get a little bit philosophical, and I have thought about these topics. And you probably have too, okay? So you do need to show off your language in part 3. I'm going to put part 3 up here in A. All right, so that's the speaking section. There are 3 parts, and I've ranked them like this. I put speaking part 3 in category A because it's a great chance for you to get a little bit philosophical and show off your vocabulary and grammar. Speaking part 1, I just think is very simple, so I've put it in category B. And speaking part 2 is, you know what, I'm actually going to move it to F, category F, because it's just weird and I find it challenging and you really need to practice that particular part. Okay, so let's turn our attention to the listening section now. I'm going to start with form, note, table, flowchart, summary, completion. This is always, I won't say always, but I will say nearly always the first listening task that you'll get in your IELTS listening section. Let's take a look at it. All right, you probably know this one. It looks like this. Here you have some sort of form and you're going to be listening for the person's last name where they'll spell it and it'll be spelled really strange. It'll be like Stevenson with a PH or something. And then their address and their telephone number and the value of something. So my little tip for this one is, again, just read the instruction because you might have only one word and or a number to play with. Make sure you understand what that instruction means. So for example, if it says 2 words and or a number. Do you understand all the different permutations, combinations you're allowed there? That means you're allowed to write just one number or one word and a number or something like that. So please do understand the instructions. Okay, I'm going to rank this one pretty highly because it's dead simple. I'm going to put it in category B. Okie dokie, we're on a bit of a roll now. Let's look at listening sentence completion. It looks like this. It's pretty similar to the one we just looked at, except the difference with this one is it's going to be paraphrased. So see number 1 there, it says the hotel reservation is under the name of blah. And you obviously have to write down somebody's name. The key to this one is that in the audio, it's going to say the same sentence but in other words. So it won't say the hotel reservation is under the name of blah, blah, blah. It's going to say, okay, so your booking, I'm going to put that in the name of booking, hotel reservation. You're going to be listening for synonyms, paraphrases, etc. Good news is the audio and the questions follow the same order. That is, question number 1 will be located at the beginning. Number 2 is a little bit further on. Number 3 is a little bit further on, etc. This one, I'm going to rank it as, I'm going to pop it in. I'm going to pop it in category B next to the form, note, table, flowchart, summary, completion, because just like the other one, it's straightforward. This one that we're looking at now is very similar to sentence completion, except instead of filling a gap within a sentence, you're going to answer a question with a word or a couple of words taken directly from the audio that you hear. Okay, looks like this. So you can see with question 1, it says, in addition to writing a report, what must the students prepare? And you're going to be listening very carefully in the recording for something that they must get ready for or prepare. Again, with this one, you're going to be listening for synonyms and paraphrases. That is, the audio will not say the exact same words as what's written on the screen there or on your test booklet. It's going to be written in other language, but it will mean the same thing. And you're going to be keeping your ear out. Does that make sense? You're going to be listening very carefully for that particular word or phrase to fill the gap. Okay, how am I going to rank this one? Yeah, this one's not a problem. I'm also going to pop it in category B. All right, so now we have another one of those crazy matching questions, except this time it's in the listening section, right? It's another one of these tables that can get a little bit perplexing or confusing. Take a look at this. So if you look carefully, you'll see a little list down the bottom. A, he will take it in semester 1. B, he will take it in semester 2. C, he won't take it this academic year. And you'll see a list of different subjects there: critical theory, popular culture, cinema studies. What you need to decide, according to what you hear, is when will he take those particular subjects. So it always follows this format. However, the content will change. So it might not be subjects, it'll be names of books that he's going to read or something like that, okay? Now, how do you actually do it? So he might take critical theory in semester 2 and cinema studies in semester 2 and politics and gender in semester 2, and he'll take the rest in semester 1, and C might remain empty, for example. Just keep that in mind. You do not have to fill the table completely. I mean, you have to tick them all, but this particular column you might not have to tick, or this particular column. That's why this one's a bit tricky. Okay, this one belongs, as far as I'm concerned, right down the bottom with the other matching questions which bamboozle the mind. Let's put it in category F. The next one freaks people out. It's called plan, map, or diagram labeling. Looks like this. Okay, so what you're going to see on test day is some sort of visual diagram. This one is a town library, and you'll see labels like seminar room, fiction, non-fiction, library area, library office. You'll also see gaps with numbers, and you need to listen very carefully, and you need to figure out what is going to go in that gap. You have to type a word or maybe a couple of words, or if you're taking the computer delivered exam, you'll need to drag and drop the word into the little gap there. All right, the key to this one, as far as I'm concerned, is to find out where the starting point is. So on that map we just saw, we saw the word entrance, and it's always going to start at the entrance and move north and then northwest, for example, in the right wing or whatever, okay? And then it will return back to the entrance and go from the entrance again. For number 2, you go this way. Back to the entrance for number 3, you go this way. So as long as you identify that entrance, you've always got a starting point. Then, of course, you need to be listening carefully. There's going to be distractors, we'll say on the opposite side or to the south of. There will always be a little compass there if they are, in fact, going to mention cardinal directions. So how am I going to rank this one? It's pretty complicated. This one, I'm going to put, I kind of like it actually. It's kind of fun. Yeah, it's hard, but it's fun. I'm going to put it in B. The next one is not so fun. It's very straightforward. It's another multiple choice question, but it requires you to do this crazy thing with your brain where you're going to be listening carefully and then reading very quickly, and then listening carefully, reading like that, and it can really do your head in if you haven't practiced it. Let's take a look at it. All right, so it's a typical multiple choice question style. That's fine, but the complexity comes in here because you have to read espresso has been popular in Rome since. Then you have to be listening very carefully. You might forget what the question prompt was. You have to read it again. While you're reading, you're not going to be able to listen. And then when you're listening, you can't read. So it requires you to do this thing called flash reading, where you read and then listen, then read and then listen, etc. So while this is an easy question format, it doesn't pose a problem in that regard. It does pose a problem because it's hard to do. I'm going to put it in E. Okie dokie. So we've now just done the listening section. You'll be glad to know that there are not any other tasks than what we've just done, but nevertheless, it's still a bit confusing. And considering we looked at 11 reading tasks, 3 speaking tasks, and now all the listening tasks, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my God, it's too much to remember. Maybe it is. That's why you should download the free ultimate guide from the description below. And more importantly, come across to e2language.com, do the practice questions, watch the methods lessons, and join our live classes that happen twice a day, every day. So you get to actually practice the methods, and it's fun because there are expert teachers. All right, we're now up to the writing section. We're going to start with my least favorite task of all, academic writing task 1. This one stings. Let me show you what it looks like. All right, in academic writing task 1, you have, it's up to you, but you should use 20 minutes of your 1 hour to write at least a 150 word description of some sort of visual data. It's going to be a line graph or a bar chart or a pie chart, or maybe even 2, or maybe even 3, as this one is here. This one really does your head in because it requires you to be very, very concise. 150 words is not much, and there's a lot going on in these graphs. And you have to write about the most salient, important features, and you have to ignore everything else. And your language has to be, well, this is why it's a good test of your English. You have to consider things like your grammatical accuracy, of course, but also your grammatical range. You can't just write the same sentence types. Your vocabulary precision, that is your word choice, as well as your vocabulary range, because you need to use synonyms. You need to make sure it's well structured. And most importantly, you need to make sure that you're writing it in an accurate way. You're actually talking about the graph. So you're juggling all of these things at once. Holy moly, I'm going to pop this right down here in F. This one really does suck. Okay, so this one might suck a little bit, but like anything in life, from a distance it seems complicated, and then you actually do it and you go, oh, it's not that bad. One of the good things about E2 languages, again, we've got these methods lessons for all the different graph types. We actually show you how to analyze it, how to structure it, etc. And if you do want feedback, we also offer writing feedback where you submit it through the system. One of our experts will mark it according to the criteria and send it back to you. Okay, let's take a look at general writing task 1 now, which is, if you're taking academic, you do not have to take this one. This is for IELTS General. So in this one, you write a letter, and the letter looks like this. So you'll see a little task card. It says, you were hurt in a small accident in a store last week. Write a letter to the store manager. In your letter, introduce yourself, describe what happened, say what action you would like the manager to take. Write at least 150 words, and your letter will look something like that. There's a good sample response on e2language.com. All right, so if you understand what the examiners are looking for in the letter, then this one is easy, I think. I'm going to put it right at the top in the cool bananas category. You see, the key for IELTS writing is exactly that, understanding the criteria or what the examiners are going to be looking for in your writing. Basically, they have a checklist and they're going to be asking questions. Did he or she do this, 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 and this? And once you understand what they're looking for, that is grammatical range, grammatical accuracy, coherence, cohesion, or structure, macro structure or paragraph structure. Did you write on topic? Did you have precise vocabulary, a wide range of vocabulary? And once you've practiced with these criteria in mind, and it's a bit like juggling because you have to keep them all in mind as you're writing your letter, or as we're about to talk about, your essay, then you can't be sure you're going to get a high score, but it's going to certainly help you, okay? Okay, on that, let's look at writing task 2 now. This is what the essay prompts look like. So you'll see a range of different essay prompts like opinion essays, or discuss the advantages and disadvantages, or discuss both views or problem solutions or double questions. In this essay, for example, it says, advertising has become an unavoidable part of everyone's life. Some people say that advertising is a positive part of our lives, while others say it is a negative one. Discuss both views and include your own opinion. Cool, so you need to do that. You need to discuss both of those views and include your own opinion. Always answer the question, okay? Don't come in on test day with some memorized template of an essay because you're going to write off topic. You're immediately going to get a low score. If you come in with a very flexible mindset, you do understand how to structure the essay, no matter what essay it is, because you understand how to structure up an introduction, your body paragraphs, whether it's single idea or double idea paragraphs, and your conclusion, and you read that question and you answer it and you think about the criteria, that is vocabulary precision, vocabulary range, grammatical accuracy, grammatical range, the structure, and you're on topic, then you're going to do okay, if not well, right? So, how am I going to rank writing task 2 for IELTS, the one that everybody hates? Well, I think they only hate it because they don't know how to structure it up properly. And once you learn that structure, I think it's totally cool bananas. There it is in the cool bananas category. All right, so that there is all of the IELTS tasks. There are a lot of them. Let's take a look at how I rank them. So my two favorite tasks are the general writing task 1 letter and the writing task 2 essay. That's because as long as you understand the criteria and how to structure them, I think you're going to be okay with that. High up on the list there, I've got some reading ones, including the true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given match headings, as well as speaking part 3, where you get philosophical with the examiner. I've also got speaking part 1 there pretty high up, as well as a few listening tasks. And if we go down the list right to the bottom, you'll see my least favorite tasks, which include match information and match features from the reading section. That's because they're confusing and will blow your mind. You need to learn how they work before test day. Speaking part 2, because it's weird. You have to do a monologue. You have to speak for 2 minutes on a particular topic. That's tough. Listening matching is also very confusing. And academic writing task 1 is confusing. However, I'm going to move this because like writing task 1 and 2 up the top, I think once you learn how to do it, it's not too bad. I'm going to put that there in category B. So that's that. They are my favorite and least favorite IELTS tasks. What about you? Which ones do you like the most and which ones do you dislike the most? Pop it into the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel because we release really good videos, and also check out e2language.com if you're very serious about your IELTS preparation. My name is Jay. See you soon.